Hello everybody. I'm here to address one of modern life's most common problems, that of distraction. And although we'd love to blame our distraction on phones, technology, and apps, what we know is that these things draw us away from meaningful work, but they are not the root cause of the problem. I'm Leanne Edwards, and I'm here to give you a deeper dive into the psychology behind distraction and what you can do to master it. I'll be giving you some guidelines in the forms of mental strategies and lifestyle adjustments that will make a big difference in your life. What I'd like you to understand about the psychology of distraction is that distraction actually comes from within us. Our brains are masters of inattention. And that inattention takes the form of triggers. To understand what a trigger is, we just have to know that stimuli causes us to act. That's what a trigger is. And a trigger can be internal and it can be external. Internal triggers are things like fear, boredom, stress. External triggers are things like a pop-up on your iPhone or computer. Triggers can either draw us closer to our goals and ambitions, creating traction, or they can push us away from our objectives in life, causing distraction. So what we need to understand behind triggers and stimuli is that there's one word that's responsible for all of this, and that's called discomfort. We are wired for negative thinking and negative feeling. If we allow those negative feelings and thoughts to continue, they make us vulnerable to distraction because we want to escape discomfort. And so reaching for something pleasurable or doing something different than what's causing us to be uncomfortable causes us to be distracted or vulnerable to it. Now, what we need to understand is that we don't have to be slaves to our negative feelings and thoughts. We can overcome them and master them. So this next part of the learning loop is actually going to address how do we master the internal triggers by reassessing them. I have 4 mental strategies that will help you. The first thing to do is to have a simple pad of paper in front of you and a pencil and jot down every time you feel that impulse for distraction. Ask yourself, what is it and what am I feeling? When did this happen and what am I feeling? After you've jot down several instances in multiple days of what, when, and how you were feeling, you're going to see patterns emerge. Once you see those patterns emerge, like you're thinking about marital issues or financial issues or a problem with a child, or maybe a habit that you have, maybe some dissatisfaction in life, you can then do something about that by creating a plan of action to attack whatever it is that's really distracting you. The second mental strategy has to do with a river. I want you to picture a lazy river rolling down the mountainside. Beautiful leaves on top, and your distracted thoughts attaching to those leaves and floating away. Here's another trick that I personally like. I picture a big balloon. I fill it up with those distracted thoughts that are trying to get in my way. I tie it off and let it go. I watch it drift off into the air until I can't see it anymore and my distracted thoughts are gone. The third mental strategy that you can use is try making a task a challenge. Try turning it into something more fun. Can you get a report done in rapid time? Can you get something done without any mistakes or inaccuracies? Can you make a customer's day who usually gives you a hard time? Anything you can do to create a challenge for yourself or make a task more fun definitely will help the distractions to stay at bay. The fourth mental strategy is how you talk to yourself. If you're telling yourself that you're easily distractible, you're ADD, you'll never be able to master distraction, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead, turn it around to positive talk. Tell yourself you can overcome this problem. You can rewire your brain not to act on every impulse. So be sure you're telling yourself that you can be successful at mastering distraction. Another big group of help for you is in the form of lifestyle adjustments. I want you to start safeguarding your time for yourself, your relationships, and work. And I bet you think I'm going to focus first on work, but I'm not. The most important thing is for you to have a plan. Because if we don't know what we're striving for, we certainly can't figure out what's interrupting us and distracting us from getting there. Having a plan is so important. I'm going to talk to you about something I just called time boxing. Time boxing is setting aside specific slots of time for specific activities, a specific focus. That's what you need to do. Time box out your time. But you need to do it in regards to yourself first. How do you do that? Well, you got to make yourself the most important thing, because if you aren't okay, you cannot be your best self for your relationships and for work. Box out time for sit-at-home meals, sit-down meals, healthy meals, getting an adequate night's rest. None of this stuff is hard, but we know that a walk in nature can make a huge difference in our focus. A little bit of time spent on our hobbies as well can have a big impact on our ability to focus. So take care of yourself first by time boxing out the time you need for yourself. Secondly, look at those important relationships. Relationships make us connected, and they also cause intimacy. Two things that are super important to our psychological well-being. Intimacy and connections ground us and center us. So make sure you're boxing out time for those most important people in your life. And then third, it comes to work. When you are thinking about work, I want you to think about it in terms of what happened in the 1980s when we said that cabins in airplanes would now be locked during takeoff and landing. Why? We didn't want pilots to be distracted during the most dangerous times of the flight when they needed their fullest attention. That's how you need to think about your workday. If you need 2 hours of undistracted time, take that first thing in the morning. Research shows that if you get in your emails and the back and forth, responding and reading, what happens is you start to feel very scattered. It allows distraction to come in. By the end of the day, you feel like you were the proverbial hamster on the wheel. So if you can, start your day with undevoted time on a project or something that needs your full attention. Let your colleagues know what your plan is. They'll be happy to support you in getting more things done in less time and with more accuracy, by the way. The other thing I want you to do is take that same block of time when you can into your afternoon. Quality time for yourself, and then checking emails. This won't happen every single day, but whenever you can get a control of your time, and you can do it, by the way, then try it. Pretty soon it will become a habit. Imagine if everybody in your work group had the same philosophy. devote specific time to projects where nobody interrupts anybody else, and then focus on email after that. So, safeguard your time by time boxing it out for you, your relationships, and also for work. Super important to do. So we've got multiple strategies mentally to use when we feel distracted. We've got some lifestyle adjustments to do as well. And we understand now the psychology behind distraction is the majority of time right within us and has to do with discomfort, which we can get a hold of. Here's a couple of other things that you can do to get a hold of your time. One, turn off those apps notification or any kind of notifications that are in your iPhones. Make sure that you're not seeing a flash on the screen. Remember that anytime you pull away from what you were looking at and focusing on, it takes a full 10 minutes for your brain to re-engage. Don't multitask. Multitasking creates a situation where the second thing that gets your attention is only 50% worth your brain. Imagine what happens when you're on the third and fourth thing that you're multitasking on if the second thing can only get half of your brain's attention. And finally, another actionable piece of advice that I would give you is to postpone the distraction. Just before you feel that impulse to reach and grab for something or do something that feels better than what you need to do, postpone it by 10 minutes. What we find is that you get immersed back into work, and before long, you've been involved with your work or with your projects, whatever you need to do, for 30, 40 an hour long, and you weren't distracted at all. So postponing by 10 minutes is a great thing to do. So what do we know? We know that technology is not causing us to go into zombie land. And we do know that we can get control of our internal triggers. Try what I've told you and be sure to send me feedback at leanne.edwards@leadershipmanagement.net. I'm happy to hear your thoughts and also would love to know what you'd like me to focus on some future learning loops. For right now, you just need to know that number 2 learning loop is about our external triggers, like meetings and chats and cluttered desktops and a lot of other things that you'd be surprised that you can get control over. One of your friends will become a ruler when it comes to distraction. You'll find out more about that next time we're together. Until then, thanks for your attention during this learning loop, and I'll talk to you next time.